Hey guys, welcome. We got Pyramid Stream number two. Pyramid Stream number two. I'm just gonna wait for my brother Sam to show up. Uh, wow. The main thing I want to make sure that everybody understands is happy 250th birthday to the Marine Corps. Wow, 250th. Wow, that's amazing. You know, uh, uh, we got Veterans Day tomorrow, right? We will have a hat chat tomorrow. But yeah, that's just amazing. Happy 250th birthday. Yeah, let's go. My man Josh in the audience. Let's go indeed. Uh, um, man, uh, uh, what can I say about the Marine Corps, man? The Marine Corps, you gotta understand, for somebody like me, right, that right, I didn't grow up in the military. Obviously, I didn't serve, it's just one of those things. I'm like, right, as a young kid in Brooklyn, New York, you start growing up. Obviously, my one thing that I might not mention is, and we'll probably talk about it a little bit later on when Sam gets on, is my brother Eli served in the army, and he served two tours as far as I'm aware of. I didn't invite him on to the show. He's always welcome. Eli, if you're seeing the show, you're always welcome on the show. I would love to pick your brain about what it's like to serve a couple tours of duty, with the armed forces, right? With the army, kind of the idea, right? The front line. And obviously Josh is here. He's former army. I have so many friends that are former military. Josh, my buddy Josh, is former Navy, right? So tomorrow we got Veterans Day. We salute and honor the veterans. Today is the 250th birthday of the Marine Corps. So I figured, okay, what better way than to try to cover, or at least, right? It's one of those deep movies that you're like, all right, there's no way I'm going to hope to cover a movie that has the impact as Full Metal Jacket, right? Full Metal Jacket, from a lot of folks, is the quintessential. For some folks, it's the quintessential military movie, but for the Marine Corps, it is like the movie, right? And hopefully I'm not speaking, out of term here, right? If you got any folks here that are watching that are part of the Marine Corps, or right, shout out to all you jarheads out there. If I speak out of line, definitely correct me, because again, I'm an expert in my own opinion, right? I have worked with the military services, all the services, from the standpoint of a market researcher, right? So I'm somebody that right. I study organizational behavior. My first job was as a market researcher, and we dealt specifically with the military services. So I got to know a lot of the military services and work with members of the services individually. So I got a little bit of appreciation, right, of the differences between the Army, the Navy, the Marine Corps, the Air Force, and the Coast Guard, right? Right. That's the order that we use, because that's the order of conscription, right? Right. That's the order in terms of when they came about. And I got a little bit of appreciation of the differences between the services and the rivalry that exists, right, between the services. And when I speak of rivalry, I really talk about, because for me, in my mind, that stood out was the Marine Corps and the Army, right? Because there were like two services that were like front line, right? And it was such an interesting contrast, right? To appreciate the difference between the Army and the Marine Corps, right? Two services that were frontline services, right? They were both tough services, right? But it was always came away with that idea that the Marine Corps was one of those, right? Right. You think of, like, right, when you're growing up and you're watching the advertisements, right? The Army always had, like, right, at least one of them was "Be all you can be," and then there was Army of One, right? And then for the military service, right, the Marine Corps was like, the few, the proud, right? The few, the proud. We got Josh here, said we love making fun of each other, but when shit hits the fan, we always work together. completely agree. Again, this is my own uninformed opinion as somebody that has not seen the services come together when there's time of war. I have seen them make fun of each other, right? So the Marine Corps, right? My Marine Corps folks, you guys know who you are. I reached out to some of you guys today, right? Shout out to you, Captain Marksbury. You know, you stood out in my mind as like the quintessential Marine, right? Tim Ussery, you know, I work with both of you guys. You guys were both in the Marine Corps, but Marksbury, you, sir, only because when you came about the office, you had just come back from a tour out in the field, right? So you really had a flavor of what it was like to be out in the field and do your thing. And then you had to come back into like military life and then deal with us civilians, right? You know, especially myself, you know, like some nerd that had never seen anything like that, right? Like I'm from Brooklyn. I've seen some things, right? But you saw some real action. And then Josh says, don't forget Army Strong. That's right, Army Strong, right? So a lot of the work that I did, right, just to give you guys a flavor of some of my work, I did a lot of research, right? I work for a program called JAMMERS, right? The Joint Advertising Market Research and Studies, right? And we did a lot of work for DoD, and a lot of it was supporting the services, right? The advertisement services and the research services for all the services. But the Army, right? The Army had their own budget, right? The Army was really big budget in terms of like how much work they did on their own. So they were like, well, that's cute, Luke, but we got so much, you know, we got so much work and so many dollars at work for us, but we'll still consume some of your work. But the Marine Corps had a much lower budget, right? Their budget for like market research was much lower. So they really relied on our work to be able to go and guide their strategy, right? So the whole point of that was to put boots, right? Put people in boots. And that was really an awesome thing to witness. I got my brother Sammy out here. Let me go bring him in. Sammy, what's up, buddy? Hey, hey, hey.
No, can you hear me good?
I can hear you, my brother.
All right. Yeah.
My name is Sammy. I love it. My man with the with the sound effects. So, Sammy, I was giving folks a flavor. One, I was shouting out the Marines, right? Today is the 250th birthday of the U.S. Marine Corps. So I celebrate, right? So, you know, again, I don't think you served, right? I didn't serve, but we got our brother Eli that served in the Army. Your son, Sammy, served Army, correct?
Right.
There you go. So shout out to them, right? You know, we got that in our family, right? So we respect, right? We respect family first, but anything our family is involved with, we respect automatically because, whoa, that's how we're built here, you know? And I was talking about my career journey. My career journey was my first job. I worked as a market researcher and I worked with the military services primarily. And I got a flavor of the differences between the Army, the Navy, the Marine Corps, the Air Force, and the Coast Guard, because we had a representative in our office that I worked in, and I'm like, wow, you know. And back in my day, you know, back growing up, I just sort of like military, okay, Army, it's all Army, right? When you grow up, because well, that's all the advertising, right? Be all you could be. Remember that? Right? The Army advertising was be all that you can be, right? And you grow up and you start thinking, okay, the military is all about the Army. But then I started getting like really acquainted with the Navy. I got acquainted with the Marine Corps. Ooh, boy, did I get acquainted with the Marine Corps. And then with the Air Force and the Coast Guard. And I started really appreciating the differences. Not that, right? My buddy Josh here, who's a hatter from Alabama, he's former Army. And my buddy Josh, that I met right when I moved into Northern Virginia. He's former Navy, and in the Washington D.C. area, we got so many current and former military folks that move into this area for obvious reasons, right? The government's close by, the federal government that is, And we got a lot of folks. We got Quantico, right? For the Marine Corps, we got Quantico, not that far away down south. So I really got appreciation of the military folks from a lot of angles. And I really wanted to. And I know when Sammy and I were talking about this, Sammy suggested Saving Private Ryan. I love that movie. I think that's a great movie. But I really wanted to do Full Metal Jacket only because I want to shout it out. I wanted to shout out the Marine Corps because, man, are the Marine Corps, wow, the way they're built. If you watch that movie, Full Metal Jacket, you watch any movie about the Jarheads, right? That's kind of like the name that we kind of, I don't know honestly where the Jarhead name came from, but it's a name. Hopefully I'm being respectful by referring to them as Jarheads. But for folks that know Marine Corps, there's actually a movie called Jarhead. So hopefully I'm not being out of line and out of pocket by referring to them as that. But man, do they think of themselves as like the cream of the crop. You know what I mean? Right? Because their tagline, the Marine Corps tagline is the few, the proud, right? Meaning that you can't be in one of our clubs, right? Not everybody could be in this club. And I gotta respect that, right? It's like, no, not everybody could be that, you know? And like the Army guys, they're always butting heads with the Army guys because, well, they're two frontline. They're right. They're the two services that are frontline, right? When we go to war, we got the Army, we got the Marines in there, and they both think they're the shit. And I gotta respect their gangster because they both are the shit. But they gotta butt heads, right? Because see, like, right? You know how it is, like especially with like us, we got our brothers, right? Sometimes as macho men, right? We go and sometimes we butt heads, but we still got love for each other. But I gotta respect that, right? It's like the brotherhood. Sammy, I want to let you speak because I want to dominate this here.
What's that?
No, I wanted to kind of like for you as the father of your son served in the Army. Like, what's your perception like in the military, right? Like we both didn't serve, right? I work with the military, and I don't know, right? You work with the post office, but what's your perception of what it's like? Given movies and everything.
It's a tough job, I can tell you that.
What's that, brother?
It's a tough job, I can tell you that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And not only that, I mean, there's only a small percentage, was it 1%?
Yeah.
Serve.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about military, a very small group of people that would dedicate, volunteer to serve.
Yeah. Yeah. Brother. Yeah. That's a good point.
You have to kind of, not kind of, you have to respect that. What these people
yeah. And the thing about it,
I can tell you firsthand that my son, he went in at, I believe it was like 19, right out of high school. Well,
right out of high school, yeah.
Finished high school, then he went and got his trade degree for auto mechanic, and as soon as he didn't even wait for the certificate for that, he went right into the military. He must have been 19 going on 20, probably 19.
Yeah.
And he did about 8 years. He did go Afghanistan.
And Sammy, your mic might be a little bit low. I just want to make sure that if there's anything you can do to raise your mic, I just want to make sure because I don't want to lose out what you say.
How about this?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Eat that mic. Let me put it in front of me. Hang on.
All right, brother.
How about now?
Hey, that's perfect. That's perfect.
You're not going to see, but that's all right.
That's all right. I'm gonna imagine your beautiful face.
Let me move it to the side a little bit.
Hey, I love it. That's even better.
All right. Can you hear me now better?
I can hear you, my brother.
All right. So yeah, my son went in at 19 and a half, did 8 years before he got out. Now he's a police officer in Florida.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, when my son first came in, when I tell you, my son is one of those, he knows everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And as a father, you hate to go through that. Well, I wouldn't say hate. Hate's such a strong word.
Yeah.
I dislike going through that with him because as a young man himself, and me being the the elder, me being have gone through what I've gone through, to be
Right.
able to kind of share some of the things that I went through so that he doesn't go through. It was
Right.
kind of going in one ear out the other, right? But but my brother put it best when we went did a farewell for him. His
Yeah.
mother obviously didn't want him to go into service, but as you said, my brother,
Right.
yeah, he's did 25 years. Our niece, right?
Yeah.
She did 11 years. She retired as a
Yeah.
sergeant. Well, she left it as a sergeant. Um,
Yeah, Sam, you're coming a little faint as well. Again, it could be just me. I do want to make sure that the audience can hear you. You might need to put that mic right in front of you.
I was getting ready. See, I was running a little late, so I was going to switch over to a different mic, but
Yeah, no worries,
let me
brother.
just try this one. All right, so let me get a little closer. Maybe
There
that's
you
better.
go. There you go. Do that. Do that thing,
All right,
brother.
so again, having seen my brother go through it, my brother did 5 tours of duties. He's been
Yeah.
in there forever, since I can remember. He did 25 years. He retired as a first sergeant, which is pretty high
Yeah.
rank before, I guess, sergeant major or sergeant first class.
Yeah.
I don't remember. But anyway, he retired. But then having him go through what he was doing, I was pretty confident that if my son goes in there, he was going to be okay. After all, you have to weigh the pros and cons, right? Would you
Right.
rather your child be with a gang in the streets or the gang in the military?
That's
To
right.
me, it's a no-brainer, right? So he went in there, and I could tell you honestly, when I went to go see him for his graduation in basic training, the discipline that he had,
Yeah.
right? The sir, the no sir, the yes man, yes sir, yes man.
That's right.
I was brought aback, and I remember what my brother had said because again, my brother had just recently retired before my son went in, and I remember when my brother said, he says, when you get into the military, they're gonna beat you down to the to to bits, right?
Yeah.
But their goal is to beat you down, but to build you up, right?
Right.
And that setback, like to me, that setting for him is what he needed because he needed discipline, right?
Right.
Obviously, I'm not the father figure that would beat on kids because I don't do that. I
Right.
would rather give them tough love, etc. But he needed that someone to to tell him basically you ain't crap, right? Because
Yeah.
that's the way it starts. It starts there because you have to be able to build these people. From my speaking with him and my brother, you have to build the soldiers to the point where they can be trustworthy, that they won't break down, et cetera, et cetera. But the only way is to get them out of it. That's the way they start. They say they start by
Yeah.
beating them down, but their ultimate goal is to build them back up, right, into the soldier
Yeah.
they're supposed to be. So having experienced that personally and having gone there in that basic training when he graduated, of course, you have to be a proud papa and mama,
Yeah.
right? Because you don't want your kids to go through that, but think about the option we had, right? Now his mother didn't
Yeah.
want him to go, but I encouraged it because that's what he wanted to do. And the one thing I don't do is I never tell people what to do, what not to do, right? I
Yeah.
can sway them one way or the other in terms of giving them my advice, but on the other hand, I don't want to take control of their career because that's their choice, right?
Right.
Obviously, if it's something bad, of course, I'm going to say no. But you can't
Right.
say no to the military because, again, haven't seen my brother go through what he went through now. Obviously, he went through tours of duty, 5 of them, right? He's got his
Yeah.
stripes, he did everything. I don't want my kid going through that either, but at the same time, right? My brother's okay, right? He came
Right.
back okay. So
Yeah.
I felt like,
Once, right? He did 2 tours, right? Didn't Eli do
oh,
two
he
tours?
did 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, my brother started way back
Right.
in Desert Storm, back when they went into
Yeah.
Kuwait.
And he went
So
back
he went to Kuwait.
voluntarily.
He went to Kuwait. He'd been to Afghanistan, Iraq, number of
Yeah.
times. So he did 5 tours of duty.
Shout out to Eli. Shout out to Eli. You
Respect,
know?
respect. Now that
Yeah,
was
brother.
the Army. It's not the Marines, but you know.
Yeah.
He's a different one. Now. You can't get two of them on the same page. I can
Yeah,
tell you
yeah. Yeah, brother. I understand that. And again, it's one of those things where I love the way you describe that because it mirrors a lot of like, right, when I work with the services, we were out trying to outreach the kids 16 to 24, right? And what we were like, at some point, our organization, when we were measuring, right, so, like the idea of support, we were not measuring support. We were measuring how likely are you to recommend the military for your children. And then at some point, it started dawning on us. Very few of them were recommending. But what we need to do is switch our language out to saying, okay, maybe you don't recommend it, but how likely are you to support your child if they were to go into the military? And then everything opened up because, right, becoming from recommend, like I may not recommend it, but if my child really wants it and they got it in their heart to go and join the military, I will support them.
Yeah,
And that's what it sounds like with you guys, and that makes sense to me.
it varies. I mean, you gotta think about it from a different perspective, right? I mean, military has always been kind of like an opening, right? That's the
Yeah,
way it's always been presented. It's always been presented as an opening. Opportunities, right?
right,
Because if you serve your country, you're going to have a lot more opportunities, right? You get a lot of
right,
benefits. For example, right? If you're a veteran, whether you served in a war or not, you're considered a veteran, right?
right,
The jobs opportunities are tremendous in the
right,
federal field, right? They get to get one leg up on a civilian, such as myself, for example. I
right,
worked with the U.S. Postal Service for 37 years.
right.
Even though, in terms of seniority, that doesn't play into that, but
Yeah,
the fact that my brother was getting benefits when he started the Postal Service, um, that far exceeded what I was getting, and I
yeah,
had more years than he did, right? And
absolutely.
that's the plus, right? There's a lot of benefits that
Right.
military offers to individuals, whether you're male or female. School loans, right? They have GI
Yeah.
bills,
GI
all this
Bill.
stuff that kind of sways into the decision of why some of our kids or even some of our young adults would want to sign up for the military, right?
Yeah.
And again, look at my son, for example. The fact that he served in the military allowed him the opportunity to become a police officer,
Right.
right? Because those are the kind of people that police, whether it's canine or regular police or sheriffs or county jails or working population, whatever, ICE agents, CPTs. These
Yeah.
are the people they prefer to hire because of the experience they have with the military.
Right.
So, again, there's a lot of pros. There are some cons. You know, not many, but there are some cons. But I
Yeah.
can't really tell you what they are because I've never served, so I can't tell you. But I
Right.
can tell you about the pros, right? Those are
Yeah.
the pros that I know off the bat, off the cuff of why some of our kids lean towards that. And to be honest, a lot of our kids in the what we call the hood, right?
Right.
They want an escape out, right? They
Right.
want to leave. They want to travel. I mean, you think about a kid in the Mississippi, for example, right?
Right.
Kid's not never been outside the state of Mississippi. Now, all of a sudden, he's curious because he wants to know what it's like in the city.
That's right.
One way to learn that and to get that is through the military, right? Because you get to
That's
travel.
right.
You get to go to Fort Hood, Fort Bragg, Fort what's the one up on I can't remember the one in New York where my Fort Drunk,
Yeah.
New York,
Right.
where my son was.
Benning.
Fort
Yeah.
Leonard Wood in Missouri. So there's a ton of places that these kids go. Hawaii. I mean, think about that.
Right.
You're going to Hawaii to train, basic training. They get out of their comfort zone because they don't they don't feel like. And it's funny I say it, but they look at it like I don't need to be in my city kicking a can down the road. I could be out there
Right.
in New York area, right? Fort Drum. I
Yeah.
could be in Texas, right? I could be in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, which is the biggest base in the Army, for example.
That's right.
It's an opportunity for a lot of them. That's where they all jump.
Yeah. And do you make such great points. I love this because again, you as a military parent, you already got it on me because I got we got kids the same age. I only have one, but you have kids my son's age. And yeah, exactly, and for me, obviously I worked in that, but that's a different perspective. For me, I completely agree with you because for me, when I started learning about, right, because my job was to market the services, I went and I started like one of my first experiences in the office, right? I call it in the office, but I worked on site with a DoD program, and I'm watching a gentleman who was in the Coast Guard, I believe it was the Coast Guard, and he retired at 37 and a half. And it blew my mind, right? Because I'm over here I'm like 20 something, like my mid to late 20s.
18.
Yeah. And this guy's already retiring, meaning like obviously he's not going to stop working, but he's going to collect his check, his first pension check. And then while he's collecting that check, he's going to figure out what he's going to do next. And I'm like, holy cow, he blew my mind. I'm like, it's like he cracked the code and you're watching that and you're sitting there like, man, what did I do wrong? Right. And I loved it.
It's the same as I see Winter in there. He said, don't forget Army Strong.
Yeah.
So listen, don't forget, right? Everybody always looks towards one thing, right? That's
right.
Tomorrow, right? Future, right? And what better future can you have when you start either a civilian, either military life or even as a civilian or even in the military as a police officer, right? Because police officers are the same thing, 20 years and they're out. They can go, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that you're going to stop working. Look, I did 37 years in the federal government.
Right.
I'm 57.
Right.
I did my 37. Now, I started when I was 20.
Yeah.
Right? 37 years later, 57, which I am now, I'm retired.
Right. Yeah.
Right? It doesn't mean that I can have to sit back and relax. I mean, obviously, the ultimate goal is to kick back and relax, right?
Right.
I'm taking a break right now from work.
Yeah.
I'm going to eventually jump back in and do something.
Right. Dude, you're young. You're looking good. Yeah.
But it's going to be something.
That's right. And I love that because, like, for me, right, when I was doing research, right, because my whole point was I'm going to go collect opinions, but I'm also in many ways advertising the services. So for myself, I was like, when I found out that you could become a vet in the military, it blew my mind because I'm like, holy cow, they'll pay for your training. You want to become a vet, you love animals. A lot of people don't realize you could become a vet in the military. And like for me, right, I'm learning this only so that I can go and do the research, right, to advertise, the benefits of the services. But at the same time, I'm like, oh my God, I'm like doing that, like blow my mind kind of thing. I'm like, because you grew up in the Northeast, right? We're both from the Northeast, right? My brother Stanley grew up in Patterson. I grew up in Brooklyn, right? I'm a Brooklyn boy, right? When we were growing up, and I'm hopefully not gonna speak for you, but I'm gonna speak for myself and a lot of people that grew up in Brooklyn. When you went to school, they were like, no, don't be talking to those military recruiters because they're just trying to get you into a bad situation. Like Sammy, I mean, did you get the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, and remember, I went to East Side.
Yeah, East Side.
Yeah, with Joe Clark.
Shout out to East Side, Joe Clark.
Yeah, Joe Clark in Patterson East Side.
Lean on me.
Army paid me to be the bad guy.
That's right. I love that. Boy, Josh, he's a good dude. Former Army. He's now a hatter in Alabama.
Let's bring in Winter. Let him come up. Let Winter come up.
Well, I invited him, but Winter Josh. That's Josh. His name is Josh. Josh Taylor. He's well, I invited him, but he hasn't made his way onto the show. He's been a regular here on the channel, and he's doing his own thing. Trust me, Josh is gonna be on here. He's got that perspective because he actually served. He served. He got out. He's a good kid. Yeah, shout out to you, brother. Shout out to anybody that served in any capacity, because
happy Veterans Day, even though I know it's for the memorial, because that's what
Veterans
Day is, but happy in advance.
That's right.
Tomorrow, let's salute all those who gave their lives and sacrificed their lives for our freedom, right? And that's tomorrow. We obviously would honor them, and we want to make sure that we let people know we don't forget. We remember fallen, and we understand, and we all agree that they have sacrificed their life for our freedom, which is what we have, the freedom of speech, all our rights and the constitutional rights. But I do want to say thank you to all those who had served and died for this country, and happy Veterans Day. I wouldn't say it's happy, but it's something that we have to acknowledge without question every single year. 2 days, right? We have the Veterans Day, and then we have the Memorial Day.
No doubt. Josh, don't worry about it. I understand. Like I said, Josh says, thank you. I wish I could be on. A bit busy right now. Josh got a family. Josh is trying to get his hatting thing going on, but Josh is a good dude. Like I said, I always tell everybody here, I know you guys got your own personal lives. I want you to have that. Like, meaning if it's a choice between your family or anything else you got going on, choose your family, choose your personal life, right? And then come on if you got extra time, right? So I there's a reason why I got my brother Sammy. My brother Sammy's retired. He's taking care of his wife, right? Myself, I'm an unencumbered man, right? Right? We're both unencumbered men.
Look at this house.
That's right.
I wish my house was this nice.
No, your brother. I haven't been to your house yet, but I know your house is nice.
It's all right. It's all right.
Like I said, everybody goes. You work hard, and then you want to surround yourself with good people and good surroundings, right? And you do that because it's like, hey, you got to love yourself first, right? You love yourself first.
Amazing.
I love you, Sammy. I love. This is the flavor I love because this is what I need around me, brother. I need the folks around me that understand and get it, And the other thing is that I was going to mention is, you go through this idea. You grow up thinking a certain way, right, about everything, right, about certain people, about certain professions, right, about certain whatevers, and then you get out there and you start getting. It blows your mind. It reminds me of the movie American History X, right? When the guy grew up as a member of the Aryan Nation, and then he went to jail and met the black guy that essentially like blew his mind. He's like, whoa, wait a minute. I never knew a black guy like you. And it changed his perspective, right? And I feel like that's how we go. As soon as you start sampling life, and that's why I love the military, is that the military will it will send you to other lands, right? It'll send you to Germany. It'll send you to the Middle East. It'll send you to Korea. It'll send you to all over the place where we had a military base. And then you start learning how similar we are instead of how different we are, right? Right? And there's no better education than that. And then you bring that home, right? Once you go back home, you start realizing, the people that really, right, that really I'm fighting for, they're the ones that give me the most slack. It's these people that I went and going out to war and fought against, right? You got people from Vietnam here in the U.S. that they love the U.S. so much more than a lot of people even from the U.S. And that blows my mind. You know what I mean? And in this movie, right? So we're talking about Full Metal Jacket. And I'm going to be crass. I'm going to make a direct, kind of a direct quote from my understanding is there was a scene there where the guy, it was a Joker, right? The Joker's the main character, right? And I got to love that name, Joker. I got things to say about that. But his his superior officer saying, inside every gook, right? So pardon my language, but in the movie, he says, inside every gook is an American waiting to come out. Right? And right, there's a crass language there, right? Because that's, that's how people go, and they do that thing with, right, to dehumanize the other side. But in his way, he was absolutely right, right? There's so many people, right, from people that, right, so like Vietnamese. The only reason I say that is I got a friend, Quan, right? My buddy Quan, he lives in Salt Lake, Utah. I'm gonna be at his house over for Thanksgiving in Utah. I've never been to Utah, but Quan's a real dude. And Quan said, I love this country. You know what I mean? And then he goes and he always talks and he bigs up this country. He's like, I love Vietnam. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, I go back every time I can, but I love this country. And I'm thinking, I'm like, wow. You know what I mean? I'm like, this man, there's something about this man. And again, doesn't mean that I agree with every single thing he says. Trust me, I don't. But I can respect that. I can respect his gangster, right? And there's something beautiful about that. And it says, no offense, you're making a quote. Yeah. Yeah, agreed. You know what I mean? Again, I watched this movie. I've seen this movie so many times. And Josh, you don't worry about offending me, brother. I got a thick skin. Trust me. My brother Sammy got a thick skin. Like, there's nothing you can say to us, short of dissing our moms, right? Don't diss our moms, and you're gonna be good. Right, Sammy?
That's right.
If you want to see the worst of myself and my brother Sammy, is this our moms, and then you're gonna see some gangster shit. But other than that, you're good. You're good.
Yeah. To talk about that movie, Full Metal Jacket, right? Because that's pretty much the topic. That movie was, to me, it was one of my favorites. It is still one of my favorites. I mean, obviously, the way it was constructed. It was amazing, right? Even though it's fictional, right? It's not a true story,
right?
But the way they played it out, right? It took a bunch of people, a bunch of different groups from Texas, right? When he called him Cowboy, right? And then the other guy, Snowball, right?
Snowball,
And I love, and God rest his soul, that staff sergeant,
the gunny, the
drill
gunny.
sergeant, right?
Yeah,
he passed
Lee
away
Ermey
last year, but he was amazing in that movie. And when he come out, I was like, "Don't you get there?"
That's right.
He's
missing the shit out of them. And the thing is,
and that goes to what I was saying earlier, right? Their goal is not to be your friend, right? Their goal is to toughen you up, right? Even though the Joker, who became the Joker, that was his name, call him Joker. And then the other guy, the poor guy that if you haven't seen the movie, I'm not gonna, the one that didn't really finish the whole course.
Yeah,
right?
that's
Piles, right?
Yeah.
But he called them Private Piles for a reason, right? Because in his eyes, he was a pile of fish, right?
Right.
And again, just telling the story of different kids, right, from different areas, how they all come together and they were sent into the fire, into the storm,
right?
How they band together as one. And I watched the series Band of Brothers, which, by the way,
Band of Brothers.
We were going to talk about Saving Private Ryan,
right?
Saving Private Ryan from that movie, which is a real true story. But not the names, but it's based on a real story. That from that came the Band of Brothers.
Right.
That little series, Saving Private Ryan, which we'll save for another day, they started and did the Band of Brothers series, which is another amazing thing. But the Full Metal Jacket gave me a glimpse when I first saw it. The first one I saw was Platoon, right?
Oh yeah, good one. That's a good one. First. Oh yeah.
And I saw Apocalypse. I love war movies. Anything with war, I love it, right? And even Western. I'm starting to get back that mojo of loving Western movies, right? Cowboy movies. but I've always been a big fan of military movies, right? And especially
Yeah.
when it's like current. If I see, like I've seen, uh, matter of fact, I was watching last night The Kingdom,
The Kingdom.
which
Yeah.
was with Jamie Foxx.
Yeah.
So that one, The Sniper, right, with Marky Mark. Like, I mean,
Right.
any military movie, I'm in. In fact,
Yeah.
I bookmark them and I watch them.
That's
I
right.
might miss something in the middle, and then I'll just come right back and watch it. But I try to get all the movies I can, like Blu-ray, because
Right.
to me, I watch them so much. I could watch them many times, like over, because I never get old. The other one I
Yeah.
like to watch is
Yeah. There's
Black
something.
Hawk Down.
Black Hawk
That is,
Down. That's
that is
right.
a true story,
Yeah.
right? But the Full Metal Jacket for me was the starting point for me. Was the first movie I saw about combat that
Yeah.
caught my attention, right? Because to me, the reason it caught my attention was I got a visual of what it's like to start, right,
Right.
before they go out to fight a war, right? And
Yeah.
from that part, from the part where in the beginning, where they were basic training and doing exercises and doing cadences together, right, walking
Yeah.
in sequence. That to me showed me how prepared that they want their soldiers to be, so that when they go out there, they stick together in the same,
Right.
basically walk to the same tune, right? Meaning
Right.
everybody's got to be on the same page, on the same note.
Right.
Otherwise, something catastrophic could happen.
Yeah. And this is the part. Okay. So for myself, right? And you guys that tuned into the first episode, right? You kind of get a little bit of a glimpse, right? So me and Sammy, we grew up in different households, right? We share the same dad, but not the same mom. But Sammy grew up with my 5 brothers from Patterson, from my dad's first marriage, right? And I grew up, right, with a lot, right? Other than Bobby, right? Bobby was the one that kind of like spanned barriers, only because our brother Bobby, was a little bit of a wild child, right? So at some point, uh,
Understatement.
yeah, exactly. That's an understatement. Sammy's mom was like so upset that she was like, "Dude, I go over to your go live with your dad." And then Bobby came over, and it started like he lived with us. So that Bobby's the guy that spans boundaries, right? Other than that, it's been visitation, right? So Bobby, that's why I love that. I love Bobby. Well, I love all you guys, but Bobby for me is my heart only because he knows what it's like to live on both sides, right? With the brothers on the Patterson side, also the brothers on the Brooklyn side. Not that Sammy didn't do that, right? Sammy hung out, right? Nelson, my brother Nelson, God bless
Other
the dead.
weekends.
Exactly. On Coney Island, where Sammy was talking about those stories, I remember those stories. I wasn't there because I was too young to be there, but I would be the one hearing the stories. Me and David would be hearing the stories after you guys got back, and I heard everything that happened, right? Sammy doing the shit on the LO, slapping people, and then jumping off the right?
Going into the Coney Island, that roller coaster, and me, your
Yeah,
brother
yeah,
Javier, and all those, we used to
exactly.
jump
You
on.
were slapping people and then jumping
Yeah,
off the
we
thing.
would jump on the back of the
Yeah,
roller coaster, and we get off on the top, and we would scare people on the top.
that's right. And then Nelson was running card games off the boardwalk.
Yeah.
And then at some point, somebody got Nelson, and then he couldn't pay them, so he jumped off the pier. He was like, "I'm not paying you." I'm like, "Yo, what's that, Superman?" And then he jumped over the pier. Dude, that's real, brother.
Yeah.
Shout out to Nelson, brother. But the thing about it is, as you grow up with brothers, right? You guys spar, right? And it's not like sometimes it's physical, but usually it's more like verbal sparring, only because, right? Just like it's in the military, right? You are doing this to it's kind of like brotherly combat. And you do that so that we can sharpen each other's sword, right? It's very much like the Wu-Tang Clan, right? The Wu-Tang Clan, they go and they start going to battle with each other because I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna test you out. And then when you go out there and you go across to battle somebody else, you're gonna be that much sharper. And I think of this as also, right? So all of us are dads now. You know, none of the brothers don't have kids. And I got to tell you, I only have one. You guys all have many more kids than I do. But I know that there's so many things that my son could tell you guys about what dad did. And it was all because I wanted to make sure that when he goes out to the world, right? There's no sparring session my son could go out to in the world that he didn't go through with dad. And I did it out of love, right? Only because I'm like, all right, you're going to come box with me. Not like physically, because I never physically boxed on my son, although he might tell you otherwise. But for the most part, it was more like mental gymnastics, right? Because I'm like, listen, you know what I mean? You're gonna go out there, you're gonna face somebody, and I want you to be prepared. You know what I mean? And that's why, like, I don't know. Shout out to the Wu-Tang Clan, because I grew up on the Wu-Tang Clan, right? Only because, like, the Jizza Genius, right? He had a line that said, "I don't know you, therefore show me what you know. I come sharp as a blade and I cut slow," right? That's real talk. That's real talk, because when you come up there, right, and you could talk to Poppy, right? You go to talk to Poppy about how those brothers, right, used to go at each other. Poppy's got a bum leg. The way I understood it was wrestling with his brothers, right? Our dad's got like wires in his leg because he was wrestling with his brothers, and that's what brothers did. Because, well, they all think they're the man, right? And they all like, all right, you good, but I'm better than you. Mm-hmm. And they don't do that because, they don't do that out of hate. They do that because it's like, confidence and the machismo thing, right? And my dad got his leg busted. Our dad got his leg busted, and he had to get wires in his leg because, one of the brothers drop kicked his leg, his leg. The whole point in all of this is, right, because I got a hatter here from Vancouver. His name is Robert, right? He doesn't have any kids, but he grows up, and the thing he mentioned was, as a dad, our job is to make things tough, right? And that resonated with me only because, well, the job is not to make things tough just to make things tough. Our job is to make things tough for a reason. It's to prepare you for life. And that's what the Gunny was doing in the beginning. 45 minutes of this movie is the Gunny. Shout out to the Gunny. He's passed away, but everybody remembers the Gunny in this movie. 45 minutes. He ended up dying, right? Spoiler alert. He dies. He gets killed by Pyle. But 45 minutes, he's doing this, and he's torturing these motherfuckers. He's torturing them in my mind, right? Like me watching as a kid, I'm watching that. Why is this guy so tough on these guys? He's preparing them. Because he knows what's going to be like when he go out there, right? When they go out to Vietnam, he's trying to make sure that he's preparing these soldiers to be the best that they can be before they go out there and encounter the enemy, right? And it's so amazing, right? Because you see it, right? If you work in an organization, you see that. If you have kids, you see that. If you're a son, you see that. It's universal. And you do that sparring, right? Even right, like, yo, and then in Puerto Ricans, we do that shit in so many different ways, right? Like, you want to go fight? We'll go fight. If you want to just sit there and start talking smack, we'll talk smack with you. And we could do it. We could give it as good as we could take it. You know what I mean? Or maybe even better, to be honest, right? We're pretty good. But the idea is, right, you do your verbal judo, you do your physical judo, you do whatever judo that you got to do to go hold your own. And then you start realizing, oh shit, I got my son out there. He's got to go enter this cruel world. I got to go prepare him. And then our sons don't realize, right? And they're like, what the hell's wrong with that? What's wrong? Why is he so tough on me? I know my son did that. I don't know about you, Sammy. What do you think?
No, that's the same thing. Like, they don't. I mentioned the story the last time we spoke, right? When I mentioned about what I was doing as a kid, right?
Yeah.
How I got hip slapped in front of a
Yeah.
cop, right?
Yeah.
How I was thankful because the message wasn't clear to me until I hit my 30s, and
Right.
I went back and thanked my mom for that because had it not been for that pimp slap, who knows where I
Right.
would have been, right? Now, it's tough love. Again, I think the hardest part is as parents, right? And when you think about that part of the movie where they're teaching them tough love, as parents, we have to feel like we're that drill instructor, right? Because
Right. That's
we
right.
have
We
to
are
control
funny.
the narrative of what their picture of what their lives could be because life isn't, roses, right? We go
Right.
out there, it's not always cut black and white, right? It's going to be a whole different type of rainbow colors out there. And
That's
you
right.
never know, right, what you're going to come across in life. So we have to give them the reality from our perspective, right? That's why we share, what what it was like, for example, and I can, and this is no shot at my dad, but like I
Yeah.
didn't have my dad to tell me how things were as a man.
Right.
So for me, it was more like I had to do that for my son. So once my son, I mean, my first one was a girl,
Yeah.
obviously, to become daddy's girl. But
Yeah.
once my son was born, I wasn't thinking about me. I was thinking about him because as a man, I know what I've been through. I don't want him to go through that same shit, right?
Yeah.
French. But that's the moral of the beginning of that part of the movie is and anybody in the military will tell you that, right? And there are many reasons. I can as a civilian, I can tell you what the reasons are. Could
Right.
it be right? Might not be right, but here's the way I look at it, right? Think about this. If 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 you're leading a group of people and they're not focused on the task, on the mission that's ahead of them,
Right.
because they're focused on mommy and daddy, my girlfriend, my wife, right?
Right.
That one person could cause a domino effect downstream, right?
Right.
So for me, for example, and I had this issue at one point with my son from past experience. I speak on it only because if a parent who's a parent of a child who's in the military, whether it's a male or female, right?
Right.
We have to understand as parents, we cannot stress those kids out
Right.
because if they're out there doing their mission, right, which is what I had the issue with, right? I understood what his mission was. I even if I and the way I put it, and I'm not going to mention names, but the way I
Yeah.
put it was, I said, "Listen, I could be on my deathbed as long as my kid is out there. You don't tell him squat,
Right.
right? Because their
Right.
focus is important. Why is it important? Unfortunately, I had to explain to this person and say, if you if you say anything, if you bring problems while they're out there, right? And this is why that movie,
Yeah.
right, kind of is trying to show you why they treat them harsh in the beginning because they have to
Right.
get their mindset straight.
That's
And,
right.
and the way I explained it to this individual, and this movie actually showed me that because that's
Right.
how I got my mentality. Is this actual movie right here? Because
Yeah.
once I saw this movie, I understood why they were treating them like garbage, right? As we want to call it. Because anybody who gets spoken to that way and tell you you ain't got no mommy, you don't got your daddy,
That's
and
right.
your wife ain't here, whatever, that's mean spirited. But there's a reason why they do that. So when I explained to this individual, I said, just think about this for a second. I'm selfish in talking about my son, right?
Yeah.
That's my son. But I can't be selfish because there's other people's sons out there, right? So if you're going to bring negativity to my son while he's out there serving and on a mission, and he loses his concentration because he's focused on what you're saying back home,
Right.
what you're doing, that's going to cost him. Maybe they won't cost my son his life, but it could cost
Right.
somebody else's son's life. I
Right.
would never feel good about that because
Yeah.
my son lacked the concentration of doing his job, right?
Right.
And that's why I tell people, and I tell everybody who uh, who has kids in the military, I said, when your kids are in the military and they're out there serving, right? Do everything in your power not to post anything on Facebook or
Right.
anything in your power to not to distract them because look, they're kids. They have access to all this stuff. and they
Right.
see these posters on Facebook, and they start worrying about what's going on back home. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
all that stuff. Like I said, my example was, and I said to them, I said, do not. I don't care if I'm dying, if I'm on my last breath. If he's
Right.
out there, do not tell him a thing, because the last
Yeah.
thing I need is for him to lose focus, and then maybe he gets to go at home because he's got a free ticket because maybe I'm on my deathbed. But then
Right.
he loses focus at the wrong time, he could cost other kids' lives out there, right? And
Yeah.
that's where that portion of that movie, and I'm telling you, that part of the movie, Full Metal Jacket, that beginning, and I love it because I wasn't in the Marines, but
Right.
I can whenever I see that movie and I hear him reciting that, "This is my rifle, there are many like it,
That's
this is
right.
mine," I can recite it T for T along with the movie because
That's
it
right.
feels powerful, right? It feels
That's
like
right.
this is what this movie's about. It's about showing ownership, showing, strength, unity, right? And you
Yeah.
can see the rest of that movie from the basic training, right? The hardship of how private pilots had to go through all that stuff. Now, obviously, you're always going to have one or two that might fall
Right.
off, but then that's where Joker came in and he became his guardian, right? Because he had to
Right.
teach him how to shine his boots, dress his shirt, all that stuff,
Yeah.
and again, it's
Oh, I think you're muted, Sammy. You got muted somehow. I don't know how.
you okay
There we
now?
go. Yeah, you good.
Oh, I don't know what happened. So the movie shows in the beginning demonstrates about building team, building togetherness, right? And that the rest of the movie, which is the combat part, shows how they everything that they learned in basic training, how they put it into play, right? Communication, whether it's through hands, through just talking and hey, going
Yeah.
through here, right?
That's right.
Like, and they had that one sniper, right, that was giving them
Yeah.
hell,
Oh, yeah. Oh,
but
yeah.
they all managed. You know what I mean? They got a little torn up a little bit, but you got somebody you can't see, right? It's
Yeah.
tough because unless you know where the person is and you can't see them, only to find out, which was amazingly a woman,
Yeah.
right?
You
And
know,
then at the end, she sacrificed herself.
yeah, the man, I love that, Sammy. The way you describe all of that, because I think it captures a lot of the feeling, right? So essentially, you got about 45 minutes of the movie dedicated to like building these folks up, right? And obviously, it culminates in Private Pile taking out his drill instructor, right?
Right.
And that was a tremendous effort by Lee Ermey, right? So the gunny is right. Everybody knows the gunny. Josh has a great story of meeting the gunny. I only knew him from this movie, but he left such an impression on me. When I worked with the Marines, like Captain Marksbury, he would be like, "Oh yeah, the drill instructor," and then he would do this. He's like, when you see the guy, your drill instructor do this, and you're in the Marines, you know the shit's gonna hit the fan. And it's still with me because it was like, all it takes is this, and then you know you're in shit. You're in some shit. And I love it because it reminds me of like a father-son moment, right? Everybody remembers like that, right? Even if you don't have a dad, even if you just have a male figure in your life, it could be an older brother, it could be an uncle, it could be a granddad, it could be a guy that in the neighborhood that you look up to, right? You remember that moment where you felt like you disappointed them. Like you knew that you did something that was against like what they teach. And they start doing right. They may not do this, right? But you know they're gonna do something. Maybe it's what they say, right? It could just be, hey, I'm disappointed. Whatever it is, and then you can feel the shame that you feel, right? Because you knew that this person had right, they would look down upon what you did, and you disappointed that person. And then as a dad, right? Let's say, right? I'm just gonna assume that as a dad, as an older brother, as an uncle, as a whatever, you could rather be on the other side when somebody disappointed you. And he's like, and you like as far as much as you hate to do it, you got to be doing this, right? You may not do this, but you're gonna say the words that coincide with this. Like, yeah, you done fucked up, right? You done goofed, and you like like you love them to high heaven, but you know that you have to go and you have to follow through, right? You have to go through the motions to let them know, yeah, you done goofed. You know why you disappointed me, and what are you gonna do, right? And you do that thing, right? What are you gonna do to convince me that you're gonna right your wrongs, right? That you're gonna go and you're never gonna let this happen again. And as a manager, right, Sammy, you were a manager. I was a manager, right, in my past life. You go through that and like,
That's life.
okay,
What are you talking about?
well, I'm saying at one point I was a manager. At other points I was not a manager. So just leave it at that. But what I'm trying to say,
During lunch hours?
yeah, exactly, during lunch hours. You know what I mean? But what I'm trying to get at is even if you're not a dad, right? Because some people never have kids, but some of the reasons why they don't have kids is because I'm career focused. I want to be a CEO, right? Before you become CEO, you usually have to become some sort of manager, right? A mid-level manager, right? That's the natural order of things. Unless you're, I don't know, if your dad's like owns the company, maybe you don't need to do all that, right? Shout out to you. I don't hate you, but usually you have to climb the ladder, right? You climb the corporate ladder, and at some point you go from being an individual contributor to being a manager, meaning that your charge is other people.
A leader.
Yeah, you're a leader. You're a leader, right? Like you don't succeed unless your people succeed, is what I'm getting at. And now, even though you're not like an actual dad, you kind of are a dad. And shout out to the women out there, right? You could be a mom, right? I'm just saying, when I say dad, I don't mean just dads. I mean like people that are in charge of other people, right? Shout out to, right? I got a lot of nephews and nieces out there. You guys will be managers. If you're not already, some of them are. But the idea is you are in charge of other people, and now you're gonna go and set expectations, and now you got to deal with a situation where somebody does not meet your expectations. Now what do you do? How do you go and deal with those individuals so that you can build them up? And I can tell you, I failed a lot. As a manager, I failed a lot. As a dad, I failed a lot. But I got to think of it as learning experiences, right? We all learn, right? Not everybody's born to be the great leader, right? Some people are, right?
Except in the military.
What's that?
Except in the military.
Except I mean, the military.
I mean, you're onto something, but let's remember, the military. There is no room for error, like none, zero.
Yeah.
Like literally zero. You make a mistake, you can cost the whole platoon's life, right?
Yeah.
So hence is why it is strict, right? It's balls to the walls, as they say, right? You gotta when you go for marksmanship shooting, like an expert in long range shooting, you don't get a trophy for second place, right? The goal is to get first place, right? And to be honest, to be perfect at what you do. Like we talk about the Army, we talk about military, Marines, Navy SEALs. I don't know if you ever seen how Navy SEALs become Navy SEAls.
Oh yeah, I've seen some of that.
I've seen a couple of sitcoms that puts the test to a lot of people. Like not many people can make that, right?
Correct.
And it's there for a reason, right? Because you're basically told, like in something like that, using the Navy SEALs example, you're basically told you're gonna have to be a superhero.
Right? Yeah.
Meaning you gotta dodge bullets, you gotta go underwater for 30, 40, 50 minutes.
That's right.
Alone, right?
Yeah.
And you might be around 5 or 10 people or 20. You
Yeah.
gotta handle yourself, right? Sniper, the movie,
That's right.
right? With Mark
Right. I
Wahlberg.
love it. Yeah.
But again, it's the military is full metal jacket because that's
Yeah.
really what it is, right?
Yeah.
It's you gotta be in the
Yeah.
to be in the
And
military.
that's I love that you said that, Sammy,
And
because
the manager part,
yeah,
the manager part is right. Right. We call it managers. The military calls it leaders. Right. And I'm not.
right,
And again, I'm not in the military. Never was. But I've
right.
been around the militaries for so long in my business, right? In the federal government, working for them, I've
Yeah.
dealt with a lot of leaders, right? Military
Right.
people. So I understand, what they go through. And my brother going through what he was going through, I understood and heard
Yeah.
stories, right? That I use it to my advantage because as a leader in the federal government myself for 37 years, right? Not all
Yeah.
37, but at least 25 of them as a leader.
Yeah.
Um, I had to be able to know the difference in communications with those individuals as opposed to
Right.
civilians, right? Because they're both bred two different ways, right? And there's one way you I can be honest with you, the military people are easier to speak to only
Yeah.
because they understand that
Right.
everything you tell them, it's not about themselves, it's about a mission, right?
Correct.
Like
Mission first.
when I spoke to my team, my staff, and I had a handful of military people, I didn't have to repeat myself twice to my military
Right.
folks because
Yeah.
they understood that communication, right? What you tell them has to be clear, concise, and put it into action, right?
That's right.
As long as I did that, they were able to do it without me having to remind them. In fact,
Correct.
I used to forget when I used to give them a task.
Right.
2 days later, they do it, and then they were like, "Oh, you didn't check this, Sam." And I was
Yeah.
like, "What are you talking about? You told me to do it." I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, I forgot."
I
Because they're
love that.
so detail oriented, right? They're so
Yeah.
into, they understand prioritizing what they're supposed to do. They know how to play things out, and this is what that whole basic training is about: is making sure that they understand the assignment so that, like right now, I'm going to give you all the hard stuff because I'm going to make your
Right.
mind go haywire. Because
Right.
if you can, now you remember the part where I can't remember what the question was, but the drill sergeant had asked Joker about something about a Virgin Mary or something,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
said something, and then the drill sergeant said something, and he says, "Are you about to tell me?" And then he was like, "No, sir." Like
Yeah.
he gave him the wrong answer, but he was like, "If I tell you this, you're gonna," you know what I mean? And to me,
Right.
he was trying to figure out if this guy under interrogation would give in, right?
Right.
And this is the part where you have to understand what these people go through.
Right.
It's not just they do it because I'm a sergeant and you do what I tell you to do.
Right.
They do it for specific reasons, right? You
Yeah.
have to determine if this guy ever becomes a POW, will he chirp and become, a tattletale? And
Right.
then what he made him do was he tried to get him to change his answer, and he said,
Right.
"No, I'm not changing
Yeah.
because no matter what answer I give you, the fact that I changed my mind," you
That's
know what I
right.
mean? And
That's
those
right.
are the
Stick to
things
your
that
gun.
when you look at movies like this, you never think about it because you're just thinking, "Oh, it's just a movie," right?
Right.
But in reality, what it's trying to tell you, the movie's trying to tell you, is this is how it's done and why it's done. You
That's
just have to
right.
decipher it, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, dude. Sammy, you blew my mind with that because it just goes to show you, right? Like in boot camp, right? So we're watching in boot camp. The first 45 minutes, they're in boot camp. And right, what is that? 6 months? I think boot camp's typically
I
six
think
months.
it's I think it's eight.
It might be less than that.
I think it's 8 or 9 months.
Okay, yeah, whatever time period, but you gotta imagine, right? Can you imagine raising your kids in the course of 9 months, right? I'm gonna go from a baby to a grown man in 9 months. That's a short amount of time. So they gotta squeeze out. So like the gunny, right? I remember, like you were talking about, they make mountains out of molehills, right? The Pile, right? Private Pile has his locker unlocked. The gunny points it out and makes it a point to everybody. You left your lock. There's only one thing. There's nothing I hate more than somebody leaving their locker unlocked. And then he opens it and he's got a donut. So he's basically making, like, he's essentially tearing them down. But literally he has to do it without the idea of thinking about Private Pile, right? He's thinking about the whole battalion,
But
the
but
whole
but think,
crew.
but think about that concept, right? Think about that concept. Everybody looks at that part and says, "All right, well, what was the point? The guy
Right,
wrote a donut, right?"
right,
Think about what I said earlier, right? My scenario where I said, if my son is not focused on the mission, who else
right.
gets affected, right?
Everybody.
So that's why they said, I have failed, you have failed, we have
Right,
failed, right?
right,
Because if this man is thinking about a donut and the
right.
others are waiting, like, in line, hoping that this guy with the donut is paying attention to snipers or whatever,
That's right.
because he's interested more in the donut, other people are going to lose their lives.
That's right.
So when
And
you think about that part, think about what I said earlier, right? Now, again, they got mad at me because that's the way I expressed it. The way I expressed it was, yes, I'm concerned that my son comes back in a body bag. Of course, I
right,
don't want that. But even more importantly, I don't want nobody else's son to do so as well because of my
right.
son, right? So
Yeah,
when I say stop posting on Facebook because he's out there doing what he's doing, right? I
right.
mean, don't post on Facebook
Yeah,
because his attention has to be there, not over
right.
here, not
Not
what's
over
going
there.
on at home. And again,
Yeah,
I put myself out there because the only way that I can make my point clear was by me saying I could be on my deathbed. And as long as my son is out in the desert, you do not tell him ish.
right, right,
Because the last thing I need is for my son to think about me.
right.
Forget about his partners up there,
That's right.
his brothers and sisters that he's supposed to be watching their sixes, right? Or
Yeah,
vice versa. Because
right,
let's say it was the opposite. What if somebody else's kid dropped the donut, right? Or took the donut and then my
right,
son or somebody else, other kids
right.
got injured? I wouldn't be happy about that, right?
Yeah,
Because if this person is supposed to pay attention to my son's six and everybody else's six, that person is causing, you know, the safety of other people, which is why I go back and I say, right, there are reasons why we as military wives, brothers, sisters, husbands, fathers, mothers, we have to understand that when they're at those type of missions, that's why they don't want them talking to us. They don't want us to. They don't want them telling us what they're supposed to be doing or what the
right,
mission is. Because if we know, we're going to be concerned, obviously, and then we're going to try to find out if they're okay. When in fact they're
right,
better than okay, right?
right,
They prepare for these kind of things.
right,
What they don't prepare for is the little the uh the setbacks that are happening,
right.
right? And that's the
Yeah,
one thing that they don't need. They don't need to worry about what's happening at home. Whatever happens at home, you'll figure it out. And I made it clear if, and unfortunately, again, as a strong individual myself, and I'm
yeah,
adamant about what I believe in and why things are done a certain way.
yeah,
I made it clear. If you have a problem with it, right, we can discuss this when he
yeah.
gets back home. Because at the end of the day, I'm not just worried about my own son. I'm worried about other people's sons.
Correct.
And the last thing I want to do is have my son be responsible for another person's loss of son or daughter,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And that's why it's important that when you look at this movie and when you look at the beginning, a lot of people are judgmental towards the movie in the beginning
oh
because they see
yeah,
how harsh they are with private pilots.
Right.
And then they throw a little light in there with Joker and Snowball, and you saw when
Right.
Snowball finally got demoted, and they put Joker in there in his place. You know,
Right.
it's all about who's the best leader for a group of people. Now, my son, you know, managed to become sergeant, right?
Yeah.
And and the one thing, and there is one from my brother's side that I thought was the way I think about it with my son is the same way I thought about what happened with my brother. When
Yeah.
you're in charge of 200 plus people under your command, and my brother had 200,
Yeah.
250 people under his command in the desert, I was like, the last thing he needs is to know that his dog got lost.
Correct.
You follow what I'm saying? Because
Correct.
in the end, when you're controlling, well, not controlling, when you got the hands of one person to 250 people under your command, you're responsible for that person or person,
Yeah.
right? And the last thing you want to do is be the reason why we lost one or more of those people.
Correct.
In times like that, you need undivided attention, strictly
Correct.
focused on missions, and that part of the movie was what is showing you the reason why they treat him that way is because they got to build that. And I
Yeah.
mentioned earlier, right? We talked about how they tear you down to pieces and then they build you up.
Yeah.
That's the reason why they do that because
Yeah.
they have to get all that baby stuff out of your
That's
system.
right. And they're dealing with babies.
Your
That's what.
mommy and
Yeah.
daddy, and they tell you your mom, your mammy, and your daddy are no longer your
Right.
like the movie said. I think if I'm not mistaken, it says the Marine Corps, in his own words, is your mommy and daddy
That's right.
because now you belong to the Marine Corps.
That's right.
Forget about everything that's happening at home. In reality, that's the goal. The goal is to
Yeah.
get what's it back home.
Yeah.
It,
And
it's a
then
deep, it's a deep movie. I mean, I love it. I think
yeah.
that's the first movie I saw that made me
Mm.
love military movies because when I
Yeah.
saw that, and I've seen, if I'm not mistaken, I think Full Metal Jacket was before that. I mean, not Full Metal Jacket, Platoon.
Platoon.
I think Platoon was before that. I'm not sure.
It might have been, but
But,
those are like
but
seared in my brain.
this one here, like this one. I don't know where it is, but I have the VHS on this one, and I
Yeah.
had the DVD Blu-ray on this one.
Yeah.
And I even have it on digital. That's how nice I love, how great I love it. And if I could,
Yeah.
sometimes I want to watch it because I love that part where he's giving them the drill, the
Yeah.
military, with it. This is my rifle. There are many like
That's
I love
right.
that part. Um, I go look at it. I have it on digital copy because if I'm
Yeah.
out there, I just want to hear. Like I'm telling you, you could
Yeah.
take everything that you could take everything that drill sergeant said and put that thing in a massive like maybe even mash it up with some kind of music and
That's
make
right.
it like a motivational speech
You're not wrong, brother. I mean, you're absolutely
because it's
right.
that powerful.
And that's the thing. Like, so the gunny, and this is the part I'm going to share that some people may already know, but I'm just going to share it anyway. But the gunny was not meant. That role was not meant for him. He was the
Oh, he played
subject
it
matter
perfect.
expert. The way I understood it, he was the guy that came in to teach the guy they were going to be the actor that they were going to use to play the gunny. At some point, the people that were making the movie, they were like, why are we wasting our time with this actor when we got the real thing, right? The guy that's teaching is the guy we need. So at some point, they got their heads together and they're like, forget about this. We're over here trying to squeeze the milk out of this actor when we got the cow right here. So they got rid of the actor. I mean, I don't know who the actor was, so hopefully it wasn't, anybody that needed the job that bad. But the gunny ran with that movie, and everybody remembers the gunny because of this movie. Because he was that guy. Like, people from the Marines will tell you that's the guy. That, like, when he did this,
He made that movie.
yeah, he was that guy.
Yeah, he made.
Like, you were like, everybody saw their dad or like somebody that they respected. Like, even if you didn't know anything about the military, you saw the gunny and you were like, oh, you're watching the movie and you like want to stand straighter. You know what I mean?
Yep.
In case the gunny's watching. It's amazing. Powerful performance.
Oh yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah. And then for me, right? So the real focal point of this movie was Joker, right? Why does Joker make it and not Pyle? Right? That's kind of like one of the things that you start thinking about in the movie. It's like, okay, Pyle starts off as like the worst one, right? The gunny makes it such that everybody, the whole platoon is punishing this guy, right? So like when Pyle messes up, he doesn't punish Pyle, he punishes the platoon, right? His buddies, and then he makes them watch. He's like, here, you eat this donut while everybody that like your comrades here are gonna they're gonna be doing PT while you eat this freaking donut. And now all of a sudden they're gonna start disciplining you. It's amazing in terms of the psychological, right? Like what the psychology of building a soldier is, and they captured it so well in 45 minutes. Mm-hmm. And then you start thinking, okay, obviously Pyle doesn't make it, right? He ends up offing the gunny, and he ends up offing himself. And then we cut to Vietnam. These guys are in Vietnam, and then Joker is still, right, regardless, right? He's got hair now because he's not in basic training, but Joker remains Joker. He's gone through some crap, right? He saw Private Pyle shoot his drill instructor and kill him, and then kill himself, and now he still is Joker, meaning his sense of humor is the only thing that gets him through boot camp and then gets him through Vietnam. It's amazing. And I find like myself, like Sammy, myself, we're guys that thrive on our sense of humor, right? Like Sammy was telling a joke about like, right, when he dies, he's gonna need 3 days for his funeral, right? There's a reason, right? Yeah, exactly. There's a reason why we do that kind of stuff, because our sense of humor can carry us through the worst of situations, the worst of topics, right? You know, and it's one of those things, like, right? It's like the sad clown, right? The sad clown will make jokes and like, hey, I'm still gonna entertain, but I'm gonna make jokes about it because, you know what I mean? I'm like, because that's what kept Joker alive, and it kept him in sense of morality, right? Because even though Joker went through boot camp, he went through and he saw buddies die, he still kept his sense of Joker, right? Right? That literally never left him, and it's what kept him alive. That's, I thought, one of the lessons in there, because, right? So here's the thing, the duality of man, because they literally mention it in the movie, right? The whole point of this movie is the duality of man, right? The idea of I could be this person, and I could also be this person, right? Because he got two things that represent that, right? Joker like he carries the peace sign on his jacket, right? He's got peace on his jacket, but on his helmet, he's got born to kill. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine somebody that, right, that is carrying those two contradictions in themselves? Peace, my brother, but born to kill. That's amazing. That blows my mind. Mm-hmm. I'm like, what could you concoct in your mind that could make somebody like be okay with having peace? And even his superior officers mentioned, it's like, listen, can you take that damn peace sign off of there? What happens if you get killed and somebody sees a peace sign? It's amazing. Like, it blows my mind, like the psychology behind all this, that somebody could be like, go through everything that we already saw Joker go through, right? And he's still got his sense of peace, but at the same time, the Marine Corps instilled in him born to kill. I know, it's powerful, brother. It's powerful.
Individuals. I mean, some people go in hardcore like that.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're trained to kill. I mean, let's be honest, right? They're
Right.
not trained to help you with your flower bed,
Right.
right? They're trained to kill. Now,
Right.
being superior is the main goal, right? Being
Right.
able to conquer, but
Right.
you can't conquer. So what they're saying, what the message that I got from that was basically, how can you be a soldier yet you want peace? Like
Yeah.
when the mission of the soldier is right to serve and protect, right? Kind of like the police officers, right?
Right.
And they're defending democracy,
Yeah.
right? And how democratic is it to be at war, right?
Yeah.
There is there, but sometimes you have no choice, right?
Right.
Now, war could be many things, right? Some we see war being done in many fashions and for many reasons, some
Yeah.
legitimate and a lot of it, I'll say a lot of it illegitimate, right?
Right.
Like when we got hit with September 11th, right? Everybody was
Yeah.
angry, right? No matter what color of the political spectrum you were from, we all agreed with the same thing. We got to get it back, right?
Right.
Now, unbeknownst to many, conspiracy, whatever, you know, there were a lot of things that played into that, right?
Yeah.
It should have ever happened. No. Why did it happen? We still got people pointing fingers.
Right.
Just like, and again, nothing to do with the movie, but the whole Charlie Kirk thing, right?
Right. Correct. Correct.
Sometimes you're gonna get half the country believe in one thing, half the country believe in another thing. So unless it's done, you know, as as the movie depicted, right? Born to Kill, peace,
Right. Right.
right? Well, what side of the spectrum are you on?
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
so so that part I look at it like the way I interpret that part was more or less you're born to kill because that's what you're trained to do, but deep inside you want peace. But we expect
Right.
peace, right? Because
Correct.
you don't want to
Correct.
be on that side of the spectrum because it's not going to be pretty. But
Right.
if we can keep the peace, then we all can live happily ever after.
Yeah. Yeah.
And some people believe in that, right? Even in the military, some people in the military believe that, yeah, I'll sign up. I'm never going to be sent out elsewhere. But then again, you got people who sign up, and the first thing they want to do is get a combat badge
Right.
because I kid you not, that was my son's mentality.
Right.
He wants a combat badge. I'm
Right.
like, really? Is that what it's really all about? Is having a combat badge?
Right.
Because he's young. These young
Right.
kids think that Call of Duty,
That's right.
you're gonna get 20 kills out there like Call of Duty.
That's right.
It's not the
Exactly.
same, man. They don't play by the same rule. They don't play where you can see them on the screen and oh, there's a green one, there's one.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And
I,
that's why I tell people, I say there's a big difference between Call of Duty and real life. Now again, I've never experienced real life,
yeah.
but I can only imagine, right? And
Yeah.
imagining for me is through my life watching all these military movies. Like
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen what's the name of that movie? Oh Jesus! It was real life footage too in Iraq. Uh,
There's so many good movies. I don't know.
no,
I'm
there was
looking
one. It was an
all
HBO.
around.
I think it was an eight. It might be Netflix, but it
Okay.
was a real team that was out there, and it was real life footage
Yeah.
where they lost a few people. And they were bunkered down, in
Yeah.
a specific spot, and 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 they were showing like for days how they were trying to survive from being
Yeah.
overridden by different angles. I can't
Yeah.
remember. I don't know if it was Restrepo. It might be that.
Yeah.
Might be that one.
Yeah. I
Restrepo.
don't.
Some to that effect.
Yeah.
But if you watch, like I love watching like the real life ones, like I like
Yeah.
watching the documentaries that
Right.
it's actual footage from the actual war because you get a
Right.
better sense of what they deal with, right? Whereas a movie, it's portrayed that way, which you can get an idea, but you're not so sure, right?
Yeah.
But when you look at if you look at the documentary section of, I believe that I don't know if Apple TV's kind of into that, but I
Yeah.
know Netflix is one, and then I use some of it like on Prime Video. You might find it,
Yeah.
you know,
But
look at
it
real
relates to
life.
this movie because in this movie, right? So the Vietnam War was a little different because, right? So Joker becomes a journalist, right? He becomes part of like Stars and Stripes medium. So like that's his outlet. And you start seeing, right, when like one of those scenes in the movie, he said, "Hey, you want to take a photograph? Want to take a photograph of this, right?" And then he goes, and you start thinking it's like his buddy that's sleeping, right? But then he takes off the hat, and it's a dead Viet Cong,
Goop is what they call it.
right? It's a gook, right? He's like, "Hey, check out my buddy here." He's like, "Man, it's like let's celebrate this guy, right? Like he fought for what he believed in. I got to know him really well. I'm like, wow, the psychology of that, of everything. And the thing about it is that the Vietnam War, right? We didn't have Twitter, we didn't have Facebook, but there were still people with cameras capturing these images. And right, it was like our first predecessor of social media. Like, and a lot of those pictures got their way home. And then people started really looking at these photos and they started getting, wow, what are we doing, man? Like, why are we doing this to these people? And and again, I don't want to get into that. I'm not here to talk about the whether we should have been in Vietnam or not. That's beyond my pay grade. If I'm going to use it in my terms, but it tells you that this was different. It was a different kind of war than we've seen before this, and it was a predecessor to the war, right? To war that we've done since then. Because now, right now, everybody's got a camera, right? Everybody's got a camera in their pocket, including soldiers, right? When Sandy was talking about, hey, don't be posting stuff on social media that's going to distract my son, is because of this. Because of this, everybody's got one of these. Even in combat, they find their way to get one of these, and you don't want to be out there distracting, right? Because we're sitting there like, right, we're going to get our frappuccino at Starbucks, and it's like, all of a sudden you're gonna post something cute on social media, and you don't know somebody's out there trying to do their thing, and then you distract them. That was Sammy's point, and I feel him for that. At the same time, I'm just sitting there like, wow, this Vietnam War, and this is captured there, is really a different kind of, right? Obviously, we lost the war, right? It wasn't a war that we won, right? We're the big bad U.S., but we were there against people that were defending, right? Right? When you got people that are there to defend, they already got an advantage. We went out there thinking we were going to mull over these people, but they went and they resisted, right? And if you're a Puerto Rican, you know, right? We're a culture of resistance, right? At some point, it used to be illegal to carry the Puerto Rican flag in Puerto Rico. So if you didn't know that, now you know. It used to be illegal. That's the reason why you see Puerto Ricans flying the flag everywhere. They got it on the right. They got it on the chain. They got it on the mirror. They got it as the curtains. Right. And you go to New York, you see, and you go to Spanish Harlem, you can go see.
People don't understand that. They don't understand.
Yeah, they don't understand that, but
they
they
don't
might
understand the
right?
reason why the Puerto Ricans are so proud to display their flag everywhere.
Yeah, they might understand it one day, right? Because it could be, right? You never know, right? And I always tell people like those folks, right, that they don't understand. I'm like, imagine if you woke up tomorrow and it was illegal to fly the American flag. Go. You know what I mean? I'm like, go. What's coming through your head? They're like, fuck the motherfuckers. I'm gonna fly my flag. And after that, you're gonna fly your flag everywhere. Everywhere. And that's why Puerto Ricans do that, right? Right? It's a culture of resistance. And it's not unique to Puerto Rico, right? Vietnam showed you what happens, the strength of resistance. There's so many cultures that show you, right? Ethiopia, right? Remember back in the day about Ethiopia? People were like, oh yeah, people are starving in Ethiopia. But let me tell you something about Ethiopians. They never got conquered. Ain't nobody conquered Ethiopia. You can go and look up the history. If you don't believe me, go look it up. Those people that we thought were starving, they might have been hungry, but nobody conquered them. And you can don't take my word for it. Go look it up, or go ask an Ethiopian, and they'll tell you, because they're very proud of that. And they should be. They should be. So yeah, the idea is, I don't know what I got here. So something came up on here, but the idea is Joker showed the idea that his ability to cope with what he was coping with was through his sense of humor, right? And there's something beautiful about that, right? So comedy, right? I'm a big fan of comedy. A lot of comedians, you talk about, right? Chris Rock, right? Everybody remembers what just happened to Chris Rock a few years ago. He got slapped in the face in public television by Will Smith, right? He's felt, right? Like, dude, you just slapped me in the face, bro. That was black on black violence on national television. And Chris Rock even did comedy routines afterward. That's the way he defended himself. Comedy is a very powerful mechanism, right? Like myself, I grew up as a fat boy in the hood. I use comedy to help myself get through, right? Get through and not be a target. Until somebody, right? Until my brothers, right? Or to my classmates, they were like, no, don't mess with him. He's good. He's good. Even before I was good looks, he's like, he's good, man. Don't mess with that guy. Or you're gonna have to mess with me. Right? The whole point is, this movie really gets at a lot of psychological issues, right? And you could get something out of this regardless of your lot in life. And you know, I did this to honor the Marines, but I also do this so that I can honor myself, I can honor my family, right? And for you guys that are watching this, that are like sitting there, right? Again, remember, the military takes in folks that they're not 40 years old, they're not 50 years old like me and my brother Sammy. They're 20 years old, sometimes younger than that. What's that?
Speak for yourself, brother.
Well, you know, Sammy's well preserved. Myself, I look like I'm old catcher's mitt. You know, I look like I was 30 since I was in high school, brother. So the whole point is, right? These are kids. Sammy's son was a kid when he was in the military. I mean, he's still a kid to me. He's still a kid, you know, but he's older now, right? He's doing big things. But the whole point is that the military are taking kids. And there's a reason for that. Well, kids they have more strength, they have more gusto, and they're more malleable, right? Can you imagine that me and my brother Sammy went and joined the military now? We'll be harder to break because there's so many more years of lessons. So they're like, no, forget you guys. We can't deal with you guys. We're going to go after the kids that are like 20 years old. You know, there's a reason. There's a method to the madness. And the point of it really is, right, regardless of how you, right, whether you have military service, maybe you don't like the military, right? I don't dislike the military. Sammy doesn't dislike the military, right? We didn't serve. It doesn't mean we don't dislike them. The whole point is, regardless of how you grow up, you can grow up in the hood, you can grow up in the suburbs, right? Everybody's got rules that they go and they have to abide by, right? They got street politics. You got right, the law, the law of the land. You got your home politics, right? What your mommy and your papi tell you should be doing. And the stronger people are the ones that are able to navigate all those rules, just like Joker did. Joker navigated all that. He got the peace sign. still have Born to Kill, right? He still got the respect of his fellow soldiers, even though they tested him, right? Because he was just a media guy, right? But Joker already seen some things, and all that stuff you can imagine, right? If you get beyond that, you transition, because they talk about that in the movie. What happens when we transition to the other side, right? Meaning we go back to society in the U.S. What happens, right? We know what happens in turn, right? We didn't see a part 2 to Full Metal Jacket, but everybody seen Rambo, right? You saw Rambo part 1. What happened to John Rambo? Again, that was fiction, but it was based on a book, right? About John Rambo. You can see when they went back home, the Vietnam vets, they didn't get treated exactly like heroes. Yeah, you were saying, Sammy?
No, I was saying they did. They came back to shame.
Yeah, a lot of them did.
Because,
and they got treated like
it was the way I'm a I'm gonna I was just a baby back then, but the way I understood it was that the absurdity of that war was that nobody understood the reason of going into the first place. So they felt like there's no rhyme or reason why we're over there sending out soldiers to go fight.
What are we doing here?
That there was no logic behind it.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, and if you go in organizations like Sammy spent 37 years in the post office, right? And I mean, I've got a career, right, in market research and what I've done, right? Everybody's been in a room where the captain, right, maybe the CEO, who runs the ship, says, "This is what we're gonna do," and you can already see it in the room. You're looking around, and you're thinking your own thoughts, right? And you could be like, "That's the worst idea I ever heard. Worst idea," right? But there's a phrase that I don't know if you heard this, Sammy, but when I grew up, when I was in corporate life, disagree but commit. I will disagree, but I will commit. And that means mission first.
And just to remind people, this movie here was not really a war movie.
Right.
The way the movie came out was anti-war.
Right.
It wasn't necessarily created to glorify war. It was really basically a message to anti-war.
That's right.
Because, it was made to portray the glory and the honor of the military, the United States military, like many things, but to showcase the traumatizing nature of the war itself, and how just the training alone could be enough to shatter a person's spirit, right?
Right.
Because as we talked about at length at the beginning, right, which is the hard part, right, the part where they got beat up and told and spoken to in the manner that they did. It kind of exemplifies that even though they're set up to succeed down the line, right? It just glorified more as the movie went on to the war part of it. When it went from basic training that they graduated, they went on to it. It went to basically glorify and honor the military like that, but more showcase the traumatizing nature of the war and how, like I said, the training alone is just one part of it, but the war itself can be traumatizing. But it was, when it was created as more of an anti-war type of movie.
Right.
It wasn't really like what we see, like, for example, Platoon, right? We have Apocalypse Now or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. Those are like glorifying, our strength, right? Hamburger Hill, right? Which is a true story, which I love that one too. Those movies were more created to glorify war, but this is one of the few movies, Full Metal Jacket, that really speaks on more like anti-war than it did for war. Because as we all know, not everybody agreed with the Vietnam War.
Right. Yeah, that's
unlike unlike, for example, and I would probably put Kuwait in the same bucket, right?
Yeah.
Because Desert Storm was kind of like the
Yeah.
same like Vietnam, right?
Yeah.
Even though it only lasted what 24 to 48 hours,
Right.
right? But the whole notion that we were there for a specific country, which is Kuwait, when in fact we have personal interest in it, which is what
Yeah.
was the
Yeah. That's a
battle,
great point, Danny.
right? It plays kind of like the same thing that happened with Vietnam. Right?
Yeah.
Now, when we talk about right the second part, which is Afghanistan, Iraq, not Desert Storm, but the later one, which is 10 years later, right, 2001. That was
Right.
for another reason, which is the attack of the building.
Right.
Again, you can look at in terms of our 20 plus years in the military or that war in Iraq and Afghanistan, which today we're still, it's not even a, it's not a win, it's not a loss. I don't know how can you
Right.
categorize that because we
Yeah.
spent 20 plus years in occupying an area that we don't see the fruit of the labor of that, other than the fact that they used 3,000 bodies to
Right.
compensate for the 20 years we spent there. I think it's ridiculous. I mean,
Right.
again at first, like everybody else, we all thought, or at least I thought, we
Right.
got to get paid back, right? Because
Right.
that's the mindset. Nobody ever dawned that it would last 20 years. With
Right.
billions and trillions of dollars being invested, right? And again, similar to Vietnam, where we thought nowadays, like you look at Gen Zs, they look at that, if they go back and study that, because we went through it, Gen X, right?
Right.
You look at Gen Zs, I guarantee you, they did their homework, which they're capable of doing. They're
Right.
going to find a lot of flaws that we never saw because we weren't thinking about that. We were thinking patriotic.
Right.
We weren't thinking
Yeah.
about, um, the cost, right, and the loss of lives, both on
Yeah.
enemy side and on our side, right? I
Right.
don't know. I haven't. I don't know anyone personally that I've known, that I've met, that I've lost through that war.
Right.
But I'm sure my brother has. You know what I'm saying? And it's
Yeah.
devastating because when you lose people that you care and you love, in a war like that, that has no, I won't say no meaning. It's just there was a meaning to a certain extent, right?
Yeah.
At what point did we realize 20 years later, right, that we're done? Was
Right.
it after Osama allegedly was killed? Because even
Right.
that nobody knows, right? So this movie hits hard. Full Metal Jacket hits hard because it's anti-war.
Right.
It basically came out as an anti-war, which
Right.
is people can look at this movie and kind of understand why certain people feel a certain way
Right.
towards that Vietnam War, and they
Yeah.
can, if they could, if somehow they can. I can't because again, my first thought with the Afghanistan War and the Iraqi War at the beginning was because I was embedded that it was for those 3,000 people that we lost in
Yeah.
the city, as well
Yeah.
as
I completely agree.
DC, the Potomac, and all that other stuff.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I feel you. See, for me, this movie is like even beyond that. Like it's whatever you want to write. It's like it's art, right? For me, and if you guys have listened to like some of my streams, I talk about like the idea of what's art, right? Nobody could tell you what art is, right? Right? No, nobody. Even Picasso couldn't tell you what art is. Right? Art is whatever you make it out to be, right? So I look at certain hats and I'm like, okay, I see art, right? I could look at something, who knows, like a piece of a plastic bag, right? Like everybody seen the movie of American Beauty when it's like the plastic bag floating in the wind, and you're like, oh my god, that's art. And somebody's like, what are you talking about? It's a freaking plastic bag, right? And I'm like, art is what it comes from here, right? It's like whatever you want it to be is art. It like you could see the same thing, somebody could see the same thing, and one person thinks it's art, the other person thinks it's trash. And it's okay. But the idea is this movie could be whatever you want it to be. And I could definitely see somebody looking at this movie and seeing anti-war. I could see somebody looking at this and be like, yeah, US, we're the greatest, right? You know, death to everybody. You know what I mean? I understand, right, some of that sentiment. It's like, you know, like I forget the movie, but you guys might remember it, but there was something where like, God bless America and nowhere else, right? You know what I mean? Like that sentiment. Like, even though you may not know what movie that's from, because I can't remember it myself, you know that sentiment. Like, yeah, death to whoever is not the US, right? If you view that, you can view this film and you could be like, yeah, yeah, you know what I mean? You kill them. But if you also view it from like the Joker's lens, right? Meaning like, I gotta be there because this is my job. But at the same time, I want peace. You could view that, right? A hippie could view this movie.
Well, that would be Joker. But remember,
yeah,
Joker never wanted to kill anybody.
correct.
The only reason why he was given a chance to kill a person was at the last part of the movie.
Right. Right.
When they came across that Vietnamese girl,
yeah,
in that building, that she was carrying that rifle.
Yeah.
The only reason why he ended up killing her was, one, she actually asked to be shot,
Right.
And then on top of that, right, when they suggested for her to just stay there and let her rot.
Right.
And then Joker was passionate enough to say, that's the peace side of him. He said, we just leave her like that, right?
That's right.
And after he thought about it, right, his first kill was that.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't true, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But the character, which kind of like, again, it's anti-war because he was that anti-war type person, right? He wasn't for that. But yet he was there because that's his job.
Yeah.
And then, even though he didn't care to kill anybody, he ended up killing somebody for the sake of someone else.
Right. In kind of the most humane way, right? Like, meaning he saw somebody suffering and he was like,
killed is what they call it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's just amazing. Again, if you watch it from the lens of Joker, meaning that, right? Because some people, they focus on different things. But if you sit there and you look at, right, what Joker, right, from the beginning right to the end, you sit there and you're like, wow, what a movie, right? Stanley Kubrick did such a great job of capturing the everything. And again, I say this as somebody that knows not, right? I did not live through the Vietnam War, right? I don't have that vantage point. But from somebody that's watching this and like, okay, from what I know, that seemed to be a very honest portrayal of the experience of right? Somebody kind of like Joker, right? They might not be exactly like Joker. It could just be somebody that was related to Joker, right?
That was Animal Mother. that dude was nuts.
Yes.
Like that dude, like he had that I am become death on his helmet.
Yes. Yes. And that's the thing. You could imagine like the messaging, right? Just for you could do a whole show about the messages that they were writing on their helmets, right? It's kind of like fake it till you make it, right? I am a killer. I am this. I'm a badass. I'm right. Like you could only see, like it might as well be like the Gunny wrote it for them on their helmet. You are a killer. You're a badass, right? You're a Marine. Anything you do, right? You have the ultimate say of death versus life. Like it's you, right? It's like the God. Like we are basically God's. You see the speech that he gave at the beginning. He was like, God and the Marines are like hand in hand, right? He was like, it's amazing the psychology behind all of it. And right, even if you don't, right, even if you have a different view of why that's all fucked up, you could still appreciate about why that needs to be said to be able to generate the type of people that are going to be sent to the front lines. And wow, it's just powerful, man. Kubrick, right? Stanley Kubrick did so many classics. He got The Shining. Obviously 2001. I believe what was the other one that I'm forgetting here? I think he did a Clockworks Orange. He did so many classics, but this one I did here for to celebrate the Marine Corps, because for many people this is the Marine Corps movie. So shout out to the Marine Corps, 250th birthday today. Sammy, before we cast off, do you have any parting words?
I just want to say, you know, the last part of that was
Yeah,
amazing, right? Where most of the with all that craziness going on in the movie at the end, when you had and after Joker, right, got his first and only kill and it
yeah,
finally achieved his 1,000-yard stare.
yeah,
The camera, right? The movie ended with a dozen of Marines walking through that fiery city ruins,
yeah.
right? While they're with their rifles and while they're walking, they're chanting
Right.
Mickey Mouse song. That
Yeah,
was so cool at the end.
that was mind blowing.
That was amazing. When I heard that, that made me pumped up. Like I
Yeah,
thought that was the coolest thing ever at the end.
yeah,
Like singing Mickey Mouse song in the middle of
yeah.
going
It
through
goes to
the
show
woods.
you, like I said, it's like ingrained, and it's kind of like, yep, doing a happy. You know what I mean? Like how different can you get, right, from war, right? The Mickey Mouse song would be the only farthest thing. Mickey, right?
Right? You're not in
Is it?
Disneyland.
It's so crazy. It's brilliant.
I think
Agreed.
this movie um, I think this movie will go down in history as one of the
Yeah.
probably the most genius and tragically misunderstood political films of the century.
Correct.
But
Correct.
again, it's not. It wasn't a war movie. It was an anti-war
Right.
movie,
Yeah.
and that's probably why a lot of people resonate with this film
Yeah.
because of that.
Yeah.
Right?
Two Life Crew, right?
They
Young and long
understood.
time.
Yeah, they
That was
understood in a war that people didn't really agree with.
yeah.
These kids, these young people, they had like my uncle was in that Vietnam War,
Right.
and I can't tell you how many times the kid, I wouldn't say kid, but the man blew off the rails.
Right.
Many times I've seen him, because of what they witnessed out there.
Yeah.
You know, he God rest his soul. He passed away at least 10
Yeah.
years ago, but he would always tell me these stories, and you know, of course, I paid attention because all they cared, all those people cared about was being hurt. That's it.
Right.
Because, like we said earlier, right?
Right.
Nobody gave them the respect the way they give the respect to the family,
Right.
and that's why this movie is considered anti-war.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
people didn't like this war.
Right.
People were against this war to the point that when they came back from Vietnam, when it finally ended, they weren't even given a parade or anything of that sort, or a
Yeah.
welcome home. They were
Yeah.
mistreated, right?
Right.
Unfortunately, they were,
Right.
and I think from that lesson is what they learned in the future with all these other, in
Right.
between. Like obviously, Desert Storm, what Desert Shield wasn't that long, but when they came
Right.
back from Iraq and Afghanistan, I think today's our generation X realize it's important that you support them because
Right.
we don't know what these kids, young kids at that, because most of them were in their early 20s. Like
Right.
how many times? I mean, I would stick up and watching the news during that whole, for the first at least, I say for the at least for the first 3 to 4 years, maybe
Right.
5, I was glued to the TV
Yeah.
because it was important that I see what was happening with these soldiers.
Right.
Especially when you get to see a young kid, 22, a young girl, right? A
Right.
whole platoon or a whole, whole team in a Black Hawk helicopter. you know, it
Yeah.
was wrenching, right? It was hard to take because we understood, the Gen X understood
Right.
that the Vietnamese, right, the ones that came back from Vietnam War, didn't get that love, get that
Right.
respect, which is why most of them really went haywire because
Right.
they felt like I went there and fought your battle and you don't even give me a thank you, which is now what you
Right.
see today, right? What we see today is thank you for your service
Right. Yeah.
because we have to, and not because we have to because you know it's the right thing to do. It's because they deserve that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And when I see one, I always say thank you for your service. Even if I see, believe it or not, I go even past the military. I see a mailman. I say, hey, thank you.
Right. That's right.
Because
That's right.
it is a service that they give it, right?
Yeah. It's your
Even if
brother.
I go, yeah, even if I go to 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 uh to a store,
Yeah.
right? Somebody helps me out much more than what the other person did.
That's right.
Gotta give that person their thanks because
Right.
sometimes that's all they want to hear, right? And
That's
then
right.
talk about leaders, right? Talk about leaders in the military.
That's
That's the
right.
kind of leaders you want. Matter of fact,
That's
um,
right.
just last night I jumped into a TikTok.
Yeah.
Saw this girl talking leadership, like she's a manager, right?
Yeah.
And it was funny because I'm mentioning this now because she came across on TikTok as proclaiming, stating that she was a manager.
Right.
And what she said was that I don't understand Gen X people. They got 50 PTA days off. They don't take no time off. I'm a manager that take you calling sick. I don't need to know all your nonsense, all this stuff. You want to take a few days off, spend your family. I don't need to know all the X, Y, Z's. And I'm
Yeah.
saying to myself, does she really think that's leadership?
Right.
I mean, you can take that and say you're going to get all the lazy people to take your message and run with it, and you're
Right.
okay. As a business owner myself, you ran my company like that, you're out the door
Right.
because you don't encourage people to use time off to spend time with family. That's not the point. The point is that
Right.
you do that. You have the right to do that. There's a right way of doing it. But the way she came across was she basically said, you know, as a manager, I'm never gonna question why you're calling out sick because
Right.
I get it. And I said, well, as a manager, you have to understand you don't own the company.
Right.
You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And I said, and to
Yeah.
be quite honest, I said, and what I said to her was in the comment, I said, a great leader will not can do those things, yes, but at the same time will have that conversation with that employee or employees and basically
Yeah.
know why it's important to save PTOs, not
Right.
waste it because you feel like wasting. So
Yeah.
and I said, and as a Gen Xer, I said, as a Gen Xer, I can tell you my own story. I've had
Right.
surgeries my entire career. All of them were paid 100%. Never once did I lose a day's pay. Secondly, I was never diabetic. I
Right.
became diabetic in 2018. Okay? I was never allergic to penicillin until 2012.
Yeah.
So that being said, as you get older, your body is not the same. So you will need those 50 PTOs
That's
to
right.
take care of your business financially. Because if
Right.
you use 25 of those based on what you're saying, and you only got 25, well, what are you going to do when you're on your hospital bed for 2 weeks or a month or 2 months,
That's right.
and you only had 25 PTO?
That's right.
You could have had 50 because they thought your way.
Yep. Yeah. That's a great
Unfortunately,
point.
uh, because
Man.
a good manager leads more about growth and about their future rather than the current condition there is now.
Right.
If you can have all the fun you want right now, but do it responsibly.
Right.
Right?
That's
You don't
right.
have to call out sick because, like I used to get my employees, my staff, like everybody understood. I thought the same way she did, right?
Right.
And this is going to military the same way, right? I thought the same way she would, but my thinking was a little bit different because my thinking was this. And I said to them, you can call out sick all you want. I'm not going to worry about it. I said, but I
Right.
tell you what I'm going to do. I said, it's my job to ensure you understand what the rules are.
Right.
And we could have that conversation today, tomorrow, the next day, 3 weeks from now when you come back to work. We'll have that conversation eventually. But my case is that I have to explain to you what the rules are.
Right.
It is my job to make sure that you abide by those rules.
Right.
If you don't abide by those rules, then I have to go to the next step, which is take corrective action. Right? Whether it
Yeah.
be correcting your behavior or or going further with disciplinary action. I said, however, I said, forget all that nonsense. Because to me, that's a waste. Because you can't
Right.
fix people just by sometimes you can some, not many, but you can't correct people's behavior because you make a mistake. I always tell people, make a mistake once, shame on you. Make a
Right.
mistake twice, shame on you. Or
Right.
make a mistake more than once, it's no longer a mistake, it's a bad habit. Habitual, you're a habitual offender, right?
That's
So
right.
I always tell people like this. I said, and what I did was we have a program in our company, our organization that allows you to donate vacation time, sick time,
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's good. Yeah.
right? And I would pull up flyers every now and then with people that requesting donation.
Yeah.
I would pull up one of those. I block out the block it out for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Have my service dogs that talk to all, not to just a few, to all.
Right.
Listen, if I hear one more time, what is sick leave for?
All right.
Okay, I'm not going to talk to you about this service talk ever again because is sick leave for the purpose of you being sick? Yes.
Right.
However, some of you cannot handle your drinks over the weekend. That's it. And some of you,
Oh, you got muted, Sammy. There you go. There we go.
good.
I think. Yeah.
So I said, some of you think that sick leave is, for you to use it whenever you don't feel like working. I said, and you're right. You have a right to do that. I said, but let me explain something. I said, the last thing I want to see is your name on one of these papers. I said, because I'm going to tell you something. You can't get donated sick leave if you think people can donate sick leave. The only time
That's right.
they can donate is vacation time, PTOs. And I don't know about you, I said, but I have a brother who's a man, and I have a nephew who's a carrier.
Right.
The only two people that's going to get my vacation time are those two.
There you
They're
go.
my blood.
There you go.
And I will give them all my leave if they're going through something that financially they can't afford.
Right.
Have no more time. But I don't know about some of you. I said, because some of you love to abuse it, and then you want to ask for a donation.
Right.
I say, when the least you expect it, I say, you can walk out that door right now and get hit by a car and be out of work for 6 months.
Right.
Then what you going to do?
That's right.
And they're like, well, we could take out long. I said, okay, you always have an answer right there. I said, all right, well, let me ask you something. I was like, do you think the bank cares that you have two broken legs?
Yeah.
Right? The bank don't care. And the bank is going to take your 2025 Mercedes Benz out of your brand new $450,000 home's driveway.
That's right.
They're just going to leave you out in the street because they want their money.
Right. That's right.
If you ain't got their money, how are you going to be driving around a 2025 Mercedes Benz living in your $450,000
That's right.
house? I say that. I say that to say this. You might be 100% healthy today. But you don't know what.
That's right.
And I give you my example, right? Allergic to penicillin in 2012, diabetic in 2018. I was healthy as a horse in terms of having none of those issues.
That's right.
I've had 5 surgeries. I just had another surgery just this past month. I
Yeah.
rotator cuff. I've had 5 surgeries, right? Everything paid. I just retired, had a surgery. I paid $200. I'm good. I
Right.
said, you're not going to have that when you get older. I said, and God forbid you don't get a cancer.
Right.
But you're out even longer. And I said,
Right.
I've donated to one person in my entire career because that person was a good person.
Yeah.
African lady, beautiful. She was the best.
Yeah.
And everybody, I gave her 40 hours. That's a whole week's vacation of mine. I gave it to her. And
Right.
my 40 hours is worth at least $2,000 of hers. So I
Wow.
gave her that because to me, she deserved it. I said, I don't know
Right.
how many of you people will be worthy of me giving you one.
Right.
I worked hard. So I
Yeah.
tell them, just like that leader, like I said, that leader is misleading people. You can play your I'm gonna be friendly card all you want.
Right.
Someday they're gonna burn you.
Yeah.
And they're gonna turn around and say, well, you told us that we need time off. Right?
That's right.
And believe me when I tell you, people are the wrong creatures of habits.
Yeah.
I don't like I tell people, I don't pretend to be the best manager in the world. That's not my goal. My goal is to be an honest and reasonable. As long as I'm
Right.
fair, you can never talk bad about me.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
My people, every time I left I've been a postmaster in different offices. Every time I left an office, every single time they hated when I got there. When they said, Mr. Vieira is coming, right? They all said, oh, crap. We're going to be in trouble. And
That's right.
after a while, like in the beginning, I play it easy. But
Right.
after a while, they get to my liking because they understand I'm all business. I'm pro company. Right?
Right.
I can bend the rules a little bit, sure. But I'm going to hold you to when I need you. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
So for me, I was the type of person that they didn't like me at first, but then after a while, they got used to me and say, you aren't bad after all.
Yeah.
Right? The guy before me or the woman before me, that I said, listen, I can't change your experience what you had before.
Right.
Change your experience now. And my goal is that, and this is my motto, if you succeed, I succeed. If
That's
you
right.
fail, I ain't gonna fail.
That's right.
I'm gonna make sure you do your part so I succeed.
That's right.
So,
The we is greater than the me.
I was like, we can have it both ways, or we can have it one way, right?
That's right.
If we succeed, we're good. Then I can look the other way many times. I said, but if you're failing and you're trying to make me fail, I'm not going to take a liking to that. So
That's right.
it is
That's
what it
right.
is. Believe me, I got to the point where I would tell people, basically, call out sick. I don't care.
Yeah.
I say you ain't hurting me. You're hurting yourself.
Right.
I said because at the end of the day, I have to address it. That's
right.
I said so. Right, and again, the movie itself, leadership, right? Because it does show it. But at the same time, you saw how Joker took his stand, right?
That's right.
He was pro-life because he's peace. But
That's right.
sometimes people crack, right? And at
True.
the end, he
We all
cracked.
crack. Yeah. And we don't have like as big of a cracking as Pyle did, but everybody fails. You know what I mean? We are like, what are we doing, right? And maybe we don't go to that extent, but there's so many lessons in this movie, and I love it because it goes to show you like that's what good film, good art, good direction does. It gives you something like nobody could watch this movie and not get something out of it, and that's what I love.
Everybody somehow can be convinced.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like the movie itself is anti-war, but at the same time, you got a character who's pretty much the main character, Joker.
Right.
Right.
Correct.
You got a character who is against everything. Right.
Right.
He didn't care about killing people. Like even when remember when he was sitting down, we'll go back to the part where he went into Vietnam at first. The part where they
Right.
stole the camera,
Right.
right? What did he do? He just
Yeah. I love that.
because he didn't
That
care.
was so hood. It wasn't even
Right.
funny.
He was like he didn't care, right?
Yeah.
To him, it was not a big deal, right? So
Exactly.
that's what but it just shows that at the end, right, when push comes to shove, right, some people can be easily convinced
That's right.
to do something out of the ordinary, which is what he did. He got
Right.
his first kill. He could have
Right.
left out of like the movie could have ended with him not killing anybody,
Right. Yeah.
but he ended up killing one person.
Yeah.
And,
Of
and we go
course.
back to that, how today, depending on how you look at this movie, some of the kids today that might be going into the military, they can look at this movie and they want
Right.
that badge,
Right.
right? They want the combat badge. For what?
That's
What's
right.
that gonna prove that you were in the
Right.
you were like they say, right? I was in the shit.
Right. I wasn't the
Right?
shit.
But again,
Oh,
I love the movie. I love especially the ending. That was my all-time favorite. Like
yeah.
I literally go through the whole thing, like
That.
with the credits. I go
Yeah.
through the whole thing with Mickey Mouse.
That's right. Shout out to Stanley Kubrick. That again, I'm going to give him the credit. There might be obviously more people involved in that, but for me, given like all his catalog, I got to give him his props. And obviously, the actors did their own part, but that was, I agree. It's one of those things. I'm like, you watch it and you're like, am I watching this? And then I'm enjoying it, meaning like I get it. But at the same time, you're like, wow, you got to appreciate the minds, right? That come up with this kind of stuff, and, shout out to them. Shout out to this whole movie
It's
for,
actually I just looked it up now.
yeah.
I'm looking up it now, and I see that the film is based on a novel called
All right. There you go.
Short Timers.
Yeah. Short timers. There you go. Shout out to the short timers. For all my readers out there, unfortunately, I'm not one of them. I don't know you, Sam, but you guys catch the short timers if you want to see and read the book. Doesn't mean you can't do both. Watch the movie, read the book, watch the movie. Either way, I've got to think that the book has got to be fantastic if it yielded this kind of movie. So, all right.
So I'm gonna close with one final thing
Yeah.
that I love in the movie, and that was in the barracks, right? When the drill
Yeah.
sergeant told Snowball, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know they stacked shit that high. I bet you could suck a softball through guard holes. That was like the ultimate. I love that part.
Yeah.
That was when he named him Snowball.
Yeah. I love, like I said, you could go, anybody that grew up in the hood, you saw that because it's kind of like, yeah, because everybody gave themselves names, right? In the hood. Like, you might be whatever. Our brother grew up breakdancing, so they called them Legs. You know what I mean? Like these names, and you can see how they stuck. Once you got that nickname, that's it. There's no getting rid of it.
And that memorable moment, right? To close it out. That memorable moment where Private Miles gave that stare.
Yeah.
Toilet. Oh my
Right.
God. My wife looked at that. She's like, "What's wrong with him?"
Yeah, that's right. I'm like, it
I
just
love
goes,
that.
the maniacal stare.
I'm
Right?
already in a world of shit.
Yeah. And that's the stuff that gives you nightmares. Like, meaning you could literally look at that and be like, I can't get that guy's face out of my head.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good
He
acting.
played that shit to the T.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. All right, my brother. Well, man, what a great show. Thank you so much for spending some time with me and with the audience. Again, this has been Pyramid Stream #2 with my big bro Sammy, as well as your Luke. Man, catch this movie out. Shout out again to the Marine Corps.
Amazing.
Happy 250th.
Incredible. Ouch.
Love it. Hollywood Sammy. On behalf of both of us, I'm going to say have a great day. Ciao, everybody.
Amazing. Incredible.
Oh,
Outstanding.
peace.